Hey, Jay.
Evil laugh.
Insert evil laugh here. We have a spicy one today.
I know, and this has been brewing.
It's been brewing. Of all the things that I get fired up about changing the world, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
The biggest one has to do with evangelical cult religion.
And we've spoken about it a lot on episodes.
There's many episodes referring to it, talking about it, including different ones.
Yes.
We're going to do one today because there's a documentary out right now.
And it's very popular right now.
I do recommend you watch it. It's called Shiny Happy People.
Yep.
And they talk about IBLP, which is an abbreviation for Institute of Basic Life Principles.
Right.
Which is they call it a sect of the evangelical church.
Right.
I would like to call it a cult.
I will call it a cult.
Okay.
It meets all the qualifications.
Yes.
For a cult.
Okay. So we're not just talking about the documentary, though I'm going to reference it a lot because we both just watched it.
Right.
And it's, again, watch it. But I researched the whole cult.
Yeah, and the Shiny Happy People is about like the Duggar family.
Exactly.
And their involvement in IBLP.
Exactly. So they're really focused on the Duggar element, and then the creator, we'll talk about him too in a minute. But anytime it like reaches pop culture a little bit, I just want to yell about it.
Right.
And if I can give any criticism of all of this stuff and everyone talking about it and the docuseries itself, it's that they're not saying that this is the evangelical church. They're saying it's IBLP. It's a radicalized church. And I think that this is a big mistake because all of the issues that we have going on in the world, I know people can disagree with this. This is my very well-educated opinion. All of the stuff about climate stuff, I mean, we're in northeastern United States, and the Canadian wildfires are making our air unbreathable currently. So like
we're wearing masks.
Climate change stuff.
Yep.
We have women's rights being taken away. We have trans rights being taken away. We have bigotry, misogyny, racism, and we have people in political positions and positions of influence pushing this stuff, and it's working.
Yeah.
And they are all of these things, if you draw a line back, go back to the evangelical church.
Right. And I think what I'm sure you're going to get to is that this is like a very purposeful, orchestrated movement by the evangelical church, which I was driving here and I was like, I don't even like saying church.
Right.
Because I think it's so far from religion. I think it uses religion as a mask.
Yes.
But it's not religious.
It's like Scientology in a way, right? Like, where's the religion here?
Right. I mean, they use the Bible to manipulate and control.
Yes.
But the goal isn't God.
No.
Right. And it's this very well orchestrated thing that's happening through like all the sects of the evangelical church. And it's working.
Yeah.
That's the terrifying part. It's not like, oh, these like crazy people over there, they're like so extreme, silly them.
Yeah.
It's
everywhere.
They're in our government.
Yeah. They're in our government. And they're also like, we did a whole episode on the TikTok cult.
Right. Yes. Like exactly.
Like they're everywhere. They're of all ages. They're influencing so many things.
Right.
And it's not a little mistake. It's a huge mistake that we're not calling a spade here.
Yes.
The Duggars are evangelical radicalists.
Yes. Yes.
And all of the people connected to this cult, Institute of Basic Life Principles, IBLP, are radicalized evangelicals.
Well, and what I didn't know, I never watched the Duggar shows. I didn't realize until I saw the Shiny Happy People, that Jim Bob ran for state rep.
More than once, yeah.
I mean, he's in politics, and he's not the only one. Like,
no.
It's not a one-off, and that's very intentional.
Exactly right. So this centers around the Duggars. So if you never saw any of their shows, they were called like 19 Kids and Counting or 15, 14. Like
on TLC.
Yes, it started as like a documentary, and then it became a show. I was trying to explain this concept to my son, who was like like, because of the generational difference of how TV works, couldn't quite understand this. When I was saying I didn't watch that show, but I've seen it.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You know what I mean by that.
I do. Yeah.
I love TLC, but I was more of like a wedding story, baby story kind of girl after
Baby
school.
Yes, exactly.
And then I'd like move over to TRL or something. But this show was on like amongst those shows.
Yes.
We were a little bit older by this time. So like I would catch some of it, but I didn't really watch the show
and
either.
I caught enough to know that it was nothing that I wanted to watch.
I remember being so disturbed by Michelle Duggar's voice that she was using because it was so clearly like fakey phony and weird, and like very disturbed by how the kids acted and like all of that kind of stuff.
And that's all on purpose. Like she speaks like that for a reason.
Exactly.
That's like part of the manual.
So even if you weren't like a watcher of the show.
Yes.
But
you know of it.
Yeah, still, you would still like the documentary. In fact, you texted me to see, like, I didn't watch the Duggar. I was like, well, should I still watch this? And I was like, oh, yeah.
Yes, right.
Yes.
Yeah, no, they give you enough background.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Also never mentioned in the documentary, and again, this is a sign of the exact age that I am, is the fact that this is also, it's like, is it named after the REM song that's like satire on politics?
Oh, I don't know.
Shiny Happy People.
Yeah, don't make me sing it.
Holding hands.
It could be.
No, it's stuck in your head.
Yeah, no, I mean, it could be.
Okay. All right, I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
But that's what it's called, Shiny Happy People. Basically, it should just be called The Duggars Were in a Cult and Tried to Influence You to be in it too.
Tried to
Did you catch it?
The government.
Still trying.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about...
And also, if you're listening and you're like, well, why can't people run for office? Well, because we have a separation of church and state.
Well, we're supposed to, but we don't anymore.
We don't, but your religion isn't supposed to be affecting government. You can be whatever religion you want, but you're not supposed to bring that into government. You're not supposed to be, like, creating laws based on that. That's the problem. Yes.
Listen, some people get, like, confused a little bit when they're talking to me. Like, they'll almost apologize for being religious to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm always like, listen, I have a problem with religion. Mm-hmm. I don't. Right. Religion doesn't own God or a higher power or your connection to that or how you see that. They don't own that.
Right.
You can have that in your own way, and you can be a part of a religion or not. Right. They'll do the thing where they're like, "But I just kind of like this part," or and I'm like, "You don't need to do that to me. I used to be in a religion. You used to be in a religion. Like, there's none of that." My problem is with the organization.
It's the system.
Exactly. Right. There's systemic abuse in these systems that I am coming after. Not the people in them.
And all of those systems are interrelated. Exactly. So patriarchy, white supremacy, religion, extremist religions, they're all holding hands. They're all together. They're
all the same thing.
Right.
I think the patriarchy's weapon of choice right now is religion, mainly Christianity. So if you are hearing me I say stuff against that, you don't need to like apologize to me for being religious. I don't feel that way about the people in religion. It's different to me.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean if you really want to be honest.
Okay.
If you're a part of a religion and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing with air quotes and tithing and giving money, then you're funding those systems. You're funding the machine.
Yes.
So
do I disagree? Yes. Am I coming for you? Absolutely not.
Definitely not.
Not interested.
Like, you can have whatever belief you want. I don't care about that. But like, you need to know where your money goes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. You need to know the history of your religion. Because if it's Christianity based, it is also the source of slavery and racism and misogyny and what we call the witch trials, which should just be like the murder of women. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and so many other things, capitalism, all these issues are rooted in this.
Fueled by Christianity.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Okay. I'll try to reel myself back from that, but no promises, everybody. So the founder of IBLP.
Great guy. Good guy.
Lies. His name is Bill Gothard.
Yep.
Now, if you haven't seen what this man looks like, please Google a picture of him just so that we can discuss the fact that so many of these culty leaders look like the same person. It looks like David Miscavige / Tom Cruise / like early Keith Raniere. Like it's what is that?
It's to me it reads as almost like a throwback to like when men were men. Like when
it's not manly looking to
but
me.
He has that, like, he was always in a suit and tie. Gothard was always in a suit and tie. His hair was always done. Like he was very formal. Like like to me he's like that archetype of like a white man from the 50s.
So like kind of little, very pasty, deep inset eyes.
Mm-hmm. That's true. They all do that.
Like if you were going to cast somebody to play any of the cult leaders I just named,
right,
it would be all the same actor pool that you're choosing from because they all look the same. I have no reasoning to that. I'm just saying, like, what is up with it?
Well, because that's
all little white men.
That's who has the audacity to try to like literally
a mediocre white man
literally start a religion to funnel. I mean, to funnel money. That's the goal.
Oh yeah,
it's not to like spread the word of God.
No.
Or to help people. Like, and that's how I feel like when I'm watching documentaries like that. I'm always like, where do you lose God? Like in the chain of command, where do you lose God? Because so many people in this really truly believe.
Oh yeah.
Especially the women and the children, because they have to.
Yeah.
But you're like, where in the ranking do you lose God? And it's always where the money comes in. And especially in Shiny Happy People, I was waiting. I was like, where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the money? And then finally, in like the third episode, it was like, he's amassed a like $1.9 billion, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, there it is.
Exactly.
There's the money.
Exactly. One of the things that really struck me from the docuseries was that there was a woman who said that she just kind of like realized that all along it was just a guy.
Exactly.
It wasn't God. Exactly. She was just doing what a guy said.
Exactly.
And I was like, yes. Yes.
Yep.
I don't know. There's something really powerful about that for me.
I agree.
All right. Well, this guy, Bill Gothard.
Yep.
No good. No. Okay. He was born and raised
he's a predator.
In
We're
Illinois.
not just saying you're a bad guy because you're religious. This guy's a predator.
I'm going to tell you why. Listen, I had this grand plan when I was mapping out this episode where I wanted to do the thing that I've done before in a few of the other episodes where I like slow walk you to the horror. So you're like, okay, yeah, that's rough.
Right.
I couldn't.
No.
I could not do it because it's just horror everywhere.
Yeah.
So I tried with Bill to ease you in.
Predator.
You're going to be a little eased, but it's all horrid.
Yep.
Okay. So he was raised in Illinois by a very strict evangelical family. He went to Wheaton College in Illinois.
Yep.
Not the one in Massachusetts. No, luckily, you caught me almost making a mistake because we have an episode on mistakes if you'd like to.
True. Check that one out. No, because when they said that in the episode, and I was like, Wheaton College near us?
Yes.
What?
Right.
So I did a little Google.
Yes, thank goodness. Yep. But this Wheaton College, you can major in evangelism.
Evangelism.
But it's like spelled not evangelical, like...
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. And leadership is the name of the major.
Yep.
Okay. So Bill goes there, he graduates, and then he began IBLP in 1961 under the name Campus Teams, which was mostly like youth ministries.
Okay.
So this blew up when he made a little shift in tactic. He started marketing his stuff about using the Bible to solve financial problems, and then later added in homeschooling.
There we go. It's the money.
Exactly. So that sort of angle for him was what got him a lot of attention. Right. And then what happened is that all these other evangelical churches started like grabbing in some of his teachings. Like one person would go to a seminar that went to that evangelical church and they would bring that back. And it
then
just
all
sort
those
of
families
spread.
would be homeschooling. And,
yes. And it's much more, much more concentrated in like the South and like central United States, but it's still everywhere. Like don't get it twisted that it's not. There's not someone near you who's been to a seminar. Yes. Okay.
There's always a seminar.
Oh, it's always a seminar. You know, the hard thing is that I'm a person who loves a seminar.
I know you do. I know.
But like, these people give such a bad name to stuff like this. Like, I don't mind if you're giving me a sales pitch to buy something. I don't mind that at all. Just let me know what you're doing. Let me know what I'm here for. Don't try to trick me.
Right. I know.
get really upset. Okay. Anyways, one of the best quotes I found of like what IBLP was trying to do was from Shiny Happy People.
Okay.
And the person said, they make every father a cult leader and every home an island.
Yes.
So that's the teaching.
Terrifying.
Immediately no. Like,
it's terrifying.
But that's what Bill Gothard was doing. And he, unfortunately, was a smart manipulator of human beings. Like
they all are.
All these bad guys.
Right.
And he came in and like sort of got these men when they were like really worried financially. And yes, he got the women too, but he was aiming for the men.
Right.
Obviously. This whole system appeals to white men, right? And he would like bring them in with that and then give like, oh, you don't want your kids to read those books instead of banning books and worrying about your kids, you know, being taught to be drag queens or whatever other rhetoric they're saying is happening in school. You could just homeschool.
Just pull them. Right.
I mean, make your wife do it.
Exactly.
But here's like the literature that you teach. Yeah, more on that.
And they were also, they were saying that you were getting like a pre-law degree.
Yeah, you were getting a
degree,
a slut shaming degree.
Right.
Is what you were getting, actually. Yeah, okay. So his big thing in IBLP is something called the umbrella of protection. Which I would like to rename the umbrella of patriarchy. Yeah. Just throwing that out there. That's more accurate.
It's a great visual, though.
It is. I think you should Google it because you can see there's like a little umbrella. They use it. For promotional materials. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend going on their website. It's real icky. But you can if you want.
Oh, really?
But a Google image search will bring you this umbrella of protection.
Yeah.
So the top umbrella, I have the graphic here. You can help me explain it if you want. Says Christ on it. Right. Okay. Then, and that's like the biggest umbrella. And then there's two other umbrellas under that. So under that, it says husband. Yep. Okay. So then his roles are to protect the family and to provide for the family. Right. Under the husband umbrella, they're getting like narrower. It says wife. Yep. And that says children, managers of home. Yep. So have children and manage the home. Yeah. So they sell this idea as how to be safe.
Yeah, but it's really just like a hierarchy of power.
Yes.
Like if you're the wife,
you have no power.
You have no power. You only over the children.
Yes.
And then, you have to answer to the husband.
Yes.
Who's answering to Christ?
The amount of times in the documentary that they talked about women submitting to the men, every single time I felt like a clench in my body of like, oh my God, like people are raised like this. Like women come out, girls are born hearing this rhetoric over and over and over. It's so dangerous.
Yeah, I was impressed by the use of obedience.
Yes.
The IBLP uses obedience.
Yes. They teach male superiority and female obedience.
Yep.
Yep, exactly right. Husband is the leader, wife submits to the husband.
Right.
Girls submit to parents, but are led by the father, led in quotation marks, until married.
Okay.
Yeah. We're going to go more into some of those things. But I gotta, before I go any further, talk about how this whole system breeds sexual predators.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
100%.
The amount of stories, even just in the documentary, in Shiny Happy People, of sexual assault were mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah.
From supposed touching people while they're sleeping, more on that later, to full-out rape. Yeah. The amount of it there. But then when you go and start Googling claims and like legal action against IBLP.
Yep.
It's
rampant.
Like it made me feel sick.
Yes.
Like I was
you had to stop watching.
I had to stop Googling.
Yeah, right.
Like, I had to be like, I can't, like, and that's not fair because that's real easy for me, right? Like, let me just turn my head away.
You went back to it.
Yeah, right. But
just took a break.
But we got to talk about this because, like, a lot of people are like, but if that's what I want, if I want to submit to my husband being the leader, then what's wrong with that?
And it's because there's no choice.
There's no choice. And then it's a breeding ground for not just sexual predators, but for silence about any kind of sexual attack that you may experience. I don't have the right words to explain how scary it is that people aren't seeing that connection when they're being fed this.
Right. I think there's something to be said for the connection to purity culture and how that's basically just like a guise for grooming.
Yes, exactly right.
And being a predator.
Yes.
Right? Like when you're creating purity culture, you're basically just programming girls to accept the grooming and the assault.
Yes, exactly.
That men want to exact on them.
You sent me a TikTok a couple days ago, I think. And it was like this woman describing this.
Yes.
And then she was like, isn't that funny how that's like exactly how our culture kind of is anyways? And it was like
all these things about grooming and purity culture. And it was like, isn't it funny that all these things that make up purity culture and grooming are what America uses as its definition of femininity. And they're exactly the same.
And so like, if you're like, oh, but this is just there.
It's not.
It's not. You are being affected by it right now.
I mean, it's a very heightened extreme version of it. I mean, like in evangelical, different religions or sects or whatever, you know, they have literal handbooks of what women are supposed to read and how their voice is supposed to sound like very childlike, and you never raise your voice above a certain pitch or a tone because you're supposed to sound like a child. Like they don't say that.
I
They
would
don't
get
say
kicked out immediately.
I know, exactly.
Too deep of a voice.
But like, that's all programming women to be quiet and submissive and obedient so they don't say anything.
Exactly.
So they never speak up. They don't feel like they can speak up.
Exactly. Way worse and extreme in those places.
Right.
But influencing our culture to this day of like, if you struggle with like your relationship with food, that's because you have been taught to be obedient.
Right.
And to not eat too much. And that you see this in every single cult. They do this with women. They did it in, I was going to say Scientology. They did it in NXIVM, like all of that.
Well, because if you're hungry, you're not thinking. If you're not hungry, your brain can't think. It can't process.
Power.
You can't process things or react properly or realize
fight off an attacker.
You can't be aware what's going on, or even like aware what's going on. Like you're so focused on being skinny and perfect.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And you don't realize that the whole time you're hungry and you're starving and you're not really paying attention.
Exactly. You're weak. That's what they want. Yeah. Okay. So the biggest sexual predators in this documentary, and certainly the most famous ones in this cult, would be Bill Gothard himself. Yeah. Josh Duggar. Yes. And then Bill Gothard's brother, Steve Gothard. Yes. Okay. So Bill Gothard, again, the founder of this. Right. Was accused many, many times, sued many, many times for sexual harassment. Yeah. Now, I tried to find the exact amount of times that he had to pay, but I could not find that. But I will tell you that he was successfully litigated, was the terminology I found, that I felt like I would not be incorrectly stating what happened. Right. But there's a whole association called Recovering Grace, just like founded. They actually were who took out Bill Gothard. But just in getting the word out that this was happening so much and trying to help protect women and be like, you don't have to deal with this. Yeah. So Bill, because of these accusations, resigned, in quotes, in 2014. Yeah, they basically just like sent him off because they couldn't, he was a PR nightmare. Exactly. And so they were like, you go sit in the corner. But they knew about it the whole time. Don't be fooled. And nothing changed when he left. He just wasn't the face of it anymore. Now, there's also like, this is hinted at in the documentary, so I went to look for more information about this, and this is still kind of speculatory, like I can't prove this part, but it does seem as if Jim Bob took over. That's how I read it. But it also seemed like he made a play using this to get the position. Yeah. Ironically, though, his son is the next one on my list.
His son is the predator.
Yeah, but like,
Right.
And now with Bill Gothard, the stories that these women tell, like, I don't want to retell their stories. I want you to go listen to them and give
Right.
them their attention. But they are like the stories on the bus where he would just like touch girls and
Yeah.
like,
Or they just had to sit in front of him and he touched their shoulders, and
yeah,
it was really creepy.
so weird.
Yep.
He never married, never had a family. Also, he was the one teaching everyone how to run a family. So I think that's
Exactly.
cool.
Exactly.
But the accounts of him they go all the way from rape to molestation to inappropriate touching to intimidation, all of that.
Right.
Girls feeling like they were being quote unquote chosen by him as young as 14 on the documentary. So,
and some girls feeling jealous that they weren't being raped.
We're going to talk about that too.
That power dynamic is so gnarly.
Gross. It's gross. Okay, Josh Duggar, eldest of the, are there 19 or 20 Duggar
19.
kids? Okay, the 19 Duggar kids.
I think.
Okay, so he has many accounts of sexual assault and child pornography. As a teenager, he was sent to an IBLP facility. That was his punishment for assaulting 5 young girls, including 2 of his sisters. There was a major cover-up of this. Recently, he was just sentenced to 12 years in federal prison.
Good.
And the Homeland Security officer, who, I don't know if he was the one that made the arrest or led the investigation, he said, now imagine what Homeland Security sees.
Right.
Okay.
I got it.
He said that what Josh had was the worst of the worst. And he called it disgusting and inhumane. So the child porn that he had was, and they also, I did a little research. There was also babies being tortured.
Yeah. So I was just going to say the little trigger warning there, but like,
yeah,
they didn't explicitly say that on the Shiny Happy People.
Yeah.
But they actually showed on the screen.
Yeah.
Like clips from documents.
Yes.
In quotes of like what they were finding on his computer.
Yes.
And it was like pain, harm.
Yeah.
Babies. Yeah. Like really perverse, really sick stuff.
I mean, if someone with Homeland Security is alarmed by like the actual content, I mean, it's all disgusting. There isn't any child porn that's not disgusting. But like, do you know what I mean? Like if they're saying that, I just want people to understand how depraved he is.
Yeah, and that like they knew about this. TLC knew about this.
Yep.
I mean, like they cut off at a certain point. TLC had to.
Well, but we got to talk about how it was freaking Oprah that took them out.
Yes, exactly.
So somebody, it's still a mystery who, but somebody, we also know it was a 61-year-old woman when it happened, sent an email to the Oprah show. So allegedly the Duggars were going to be on the show.
Oh, really?
So a 61-year-old woman, they won't say who, sent an email saying, this is the stuff that Josh Duggar is doing and you should not have them on the show. So the people at the Oprah Winfrey Network forwarded the email to the Department of Human Services. They investigated, and that's how Josh got arrested.
Well, and I like that because that's what you and I talk about all the time with like, I mean, we talk about it with intuition and stuff, but like spiritual integrity.
Yes.
Like you can't just have anyone on your show.
Right.
And like in that documentary, they show clips of like the whole Duggar family on like The View.
Yes.
And like Joy Behar or whoever the hell it is standing and posing with them. And it's like, you know, you have to be accountable.
Yes.
For like who you're having on and who you're talking to and who you're giving a voice to.
Yeah.
And I know that's not all like on the TV host. I know there are people above them that are making calls like that. But at what point you're like, I don't feel comfortable doing this interview.
Right.
Like this is too much.
Yeah.
We're talking about, I mean, it was established that he had abused his sisters.
Yeah.
And they were still on TLC.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, they were taken off shortly after, but not after like a bunch of workarounds and Jim Bob trying to get them to still be on. But I mean,
And it wasn't until like the child pornography thing, like the molestation of the girls wasn't enough.
No.
To really put like a final nail in the coffin.
Not to mention that the family made the girls who were molested go on TV and say
they did all those interviews.
It was no big deal, and
right.
It was only this, which they didn't say what they lied about, but they said they
right.
lied about what he did. So
right.
all they said was they didn't even know he touched us when we were sleeping. Not true.
Correct.
We've learned, and I guess one of the Duggar girls has a book where she goes a little bit more into detail. So read the book. I'm not going to tell you what it says, but
right. But there were even then like spin-offs, like TLC ended that show, but then there were spin-offs. Like
yes.
You're still making money off this family. You're still making money off of this like really terrible situation.
And like the Duggars were promoted as this like wholesome family values thing. Like
Correct.
And that's why the people were like trying to get away with stuff. But like really they were a freak show.
Yeah.
For having so many kids, and we were watching
because it was wild.
Because it was just like, what is happening? Right? Like that's what people were really looking at. But then they were like, oh, so wholesome, and like people were buying that of like, oh, they're just such great kids and they're so wholesome. Let's look into this teaching and all that. But then how can you say that's wholesome? Even if, okay, something happens and you have someone who's a sexual predator in your home, but you don't then protect your girls.
Exactly.
How is that like a great dad?
Because that's what girls are for. That's what no one wants to say.
No.
Is that that's what girls are for when you're in that religion.
Exactly. So Steve Gothard, Bill Gothard's brother. I'll just go talk about him real quick, but good Lord. Also a sexual predator. Yep. Also, everyone knew that. So what they did with him was send him to the most remote location where they had one of those places that you send the kids to for like a little schooling or rehabilitation or camp, however you want to call it. Yeah, they called it a camp. It was like, it was like a work camp.
Yeah, well, they're all like internment camps.
Exactly. That's the word I was looking for. So he was there, so no one could see what he was doing. They sent him there. And eventually he got kicked out of doing any part of it. But
right, but it's like the shuffling around of like Catholic priests.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's the same vibe.
And then you're sending this predator that you know is a predator out to this like obscure location where it's actually easier for him to be a predator.
Yeah, just less people are going to know about it.
Yeah. Right? And it's remote, but no one will know about it.
Yeah.
You're not actually fixing anything. You're not actually protecting anyone.
No. And it's all in the name of Christ. Jeez. And then last thing I'll say about this, probably not for now, is I have to mention the law of crying out.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I can't believe that this is taught.
Yes.
So this teaching is that this is what God says. According to them, okay? That if a woman is being raped,
yes,
and she doesn't cry out to God for help, it's her fault.
Yes.
That she was raped.
Yes.
And if she can't prove it, then it's her fault.
It didn't happen.
So who else would be able to vouch for if you yelled or not? It
Nobody.
would be the person raping you.
Right, exactly.
And they're not going to say it because they're going to say it's your fault.
Right.
So women are taught that.
Yeah, there's no winning.
And
there's
then
no protection.
You also mentioned that it's taught that the women struggling the most, especially those who are sexually assaulted, are being chosen by God.
As a struggle.
To work through a struggle to become like a higher elevated on the spiritual plane.
Right.
The physical body is suffering, so the spiritual body is flourishing.
Right. So some of the other girls were saying, like, I found, they felt horrible about it as adults, but they were saying, I remember feeling almost jealous.
Yeah.
That they were like being raped because it felt to them, they were programmed to believe that they weren't being chosen for this spiritual journey. God.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that.
It's so messed up. It's so messed up. All right. I need to take a break and like take some deep breaths. And then we'll be back with some more. I don't even think I've said the worst of it yet.
No. I don't
think
so.
Tip of the iceberg, everybody.
Okay, Heather. I'm obsessed with not a TikTok.
What?
But actually, you and I both had energy work done this week.
We did.
Yeah. You had a massage.
I did.
Which is energy work. I don't care what you say.
Yes. And the masseuse that I have.
Very intuitive.
She's also like certified in Reiki. So
oh, yeah.
She literally does Reiki while massaging you. And
that's energy work.
That's energy work.
And I had acupuncture.
like literally just before you came
That's
here.
why my face is all red. I had the cupping on my face.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
awesome.
I think both of us struggle with making the commitment to doing this kind of stuff for ourselves
consistently.
We'll bend over backwards to get somebody else in the door.
Right.
We'll like make a call.
Yeah.
We'll make a connection. We'll give someone else a gift certificate.
Yep.
We'll give each other them.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of trouble doing it for ourselves. It's something I'm working on. I know you're working on it too. But then you do it and you're like, ooh, I feel like I want to be nicer to everybody now.
Yeah, it's just so different. You walk out feeling so different.
You did something good for yourself. You put yourself in a good state. You did some healing.
I mean, we have episodes on both acupuncture and Reiki.
Yes.
But I think it's hard for people like us to do things like this consistently. Yeah. And that's part of for me, it's part of walking the walk. Absolutely. So I'm trying to be better about it.
I go through times where I'm killing it.
Yeah.
I'm just absolutely killing it with it. And then one little thing in life or big thing in life knocks it off a little bit. Yeah. And then to restart doing it feels so difficult. It feels like all I'm doing is choosing myself.
I know.
But it feels so hard. But once you're doing it, you're okay. But then you get knocked off. And so I just don't want anyone to feel bad if they're not doing it. Like some people act like they're better than everybody. See our episode on self-worth. Because they do it all the time. That's not the messaging here. No. The messaging here is that it's hard, but it's worth making the time if you are able to do that.
Yeah. And as soon as you book the appointment, as soon as I booked the appointment for acupuncture, I was counting down the days.
Yes, I
psyched.
Couldn't wait and then you're like,
there.
Why am I not doing this? Yeah.
Well, and that's when you start doing the work is looking at why does it feel unsafe for me to or why do we live in this capitalistic hellscape that doesn't cover?
I have to, pay all this money for insurance, but it won't. Right. No matter how many studies I keep showing them. Exactly. Right. It doesn't make any sense.
I know.
So it's hard, and it does take some privilege to be able to do it. But if you are able, this is your sign.
Make the appointment.
There's so many options.
Yep.
Make an appointment.
Yeah.
If you live near us, message us. We'll tell you the people we like to go to.
Exactly who to go to. Exactly.
Yeah. Do it. But even if you can't get anywhere, maybe just take 10 minutes today and put on some that what is the music we like?
The binaural beats.
Yes. Yeah. And give yourself your favorite snack while you listen to that, or do just something for yourself.
Exactly.
And say Heather and Jamie said you had to.
Exactly.
All right, we're back with more of this
horror show.
I was gonna say the same exact
word.
Oh, really? I was gonna say horror show. Oh. Yes.
That's how it feels.
It does. So one thing that I thought was funny is that I watched the documentary first and then texted you that you absolutely had to watch it. And you texted me while you were watching it some different points, and they were the points that I was also the most outraged by. But one of them that you texted me, it's almost laughable to say out loud. When I say it, I start to laugh, but it's horrifying. So I feel like I'm not matching how I feel about it, and I'm getting verklempt over it because my body's we don't know what to do. But it's the eye traps.
Oh,
in homeschooling.
It's gross.
So like you said before, they kind of promise a pre-law degree, but they don't really go into math. The science is weird religious-y science that isn't true.
The anti-science science.
Exactly. And there's a lot of lessons on catching eye traps.
Literally, in the schooling.
And you have to circle the eye traps.
Which is you being a temptation.
Yeah, it's slut shaming.
It's slut shaming. And being able to spot and identify sexual temptation in the world.
And it's not as if there's a picture of a woman normally dressed, and then there's a picture of a woman naked or with a boob out or cheek showing. It's no. There's no dominatrix is on there. It's literally a woman whose ankle is showing.
It's an ankle.
Yeah, and you're circling that. Or the top doesn't go up high enough. There's a little clavicle and you have to circle that.
You circle the clavicle.
And then the Duggars themselves have this thing that they talked about where if they were walking by a woman they felt wasn't dressed modestly, they would yell Nike, and all the boys had to look down as she walked by. And this messaging it's everywhere in misogyny and certainly in
Right.
the evangelical cultures in church. But this one makes no sense to me because you're like, men are the powerful ones. They're in charge, but women have to be covered up because they're powerless to women. And I'm like,
because they're unable to contain themselves.
this is the whole thing. This is why women's sexuality and women's bodies have been taken from them and have been, they've tried to take away the power.
And that's why it's so confusing for women because it's such mixed messaging.
Yeah, you're saying I'm so powerful. I could lead you off the path that you have chosen.
But also, I'm a piece of shit and I suck just because I'm a woman.
Right.
Both of those narratives exist and they don't make sense.
I mean, it's the age-old thing with like, who are they trying to control? That's the most powerful, right? Like, it's that, obviously. Right. But like, it's so maddening to me that is there, like, someone's going to critically think here, going like, wait a minute.
Right. But that's why that's how you know that it's a trick and it's a sham because it doesn't make sense. Like when someone's saying to like, just believe, just be obedient, and there's nothing to back it up besides just doing it. Yeah. Or some fear of punishment. Yeah. Then there's nothing behind that.
No, that's not faith or whatever.
No,
ma'am. It is not. Okay. So I had to mention the eye traps. I'm sorry I have a weird reaction to it, but like it makes me laugh / want to punch everybody.
It's super frustrating.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They also have very different kind of educations for girls and boys. Yeah. So the girls are meant to be uneducated so that they can't leave.
Correct.
I just keep thinking about Anna Duggar, who is Josh Duggar's wife, mother of his children. Right. And I just wonder if she knows we could get her out.
Well, that's what I thought was compelling, was someone who had left IBLP. Yeah. And Shiny Happy People was talking, and she was like, we all know that she could leave and
get like a book
she'd have
deal.
A book deal like that in a heartbeat. She'd be a millionaire.
She doesn't know that.
She doesn't know that. That's the point of a cult, is they keep you isolated. Yes. You aren't allowed to go on the internet.
Can't watch TV.
You can only watch, I mean, it was older, but like they only had like VHS tapes of Gothard that you could watch. Yeah. That was all you were allowed to watch. Like, that's why we're saying this isn't a church.
You couldn't even watch VeggieTales.
No.
Not allowed.
No.
Cabbage Patch Dolls were demonic.
Yes, I remember that.
I'm jumping. Sorry.
But like, that's the point of that isolation. Yeah. Is so that you don't even know what options are out there to save yourself. Right. You don't know that all you have is your pedophile husband. Yeah. And you're just trying to survive and keep your kids safe. That's all she knows that is out there.
I just worry for her. And like, I'm not saying she's innocent in all this. No. I mean, I'm not. No. But she's clearly a victim. And like, there was a person on the documentary who said they were a prostitute that he had hired. Yeah. Josh Duggar had hired. Also, they found him on that Ashley Madison website. So
yeah, I mean, shocker.
He's not just looking at it and abusing children. He's also like,
no, he's
actively cheating on his wife.
Control.
Yeah. Really, really godly. How's your umbrella now, bro? Like, I don't understand what's going on here.
Well, and if you are the umbrella for your children, you're not actually protecting children. Right. You're not the umbrella.
No, you're not protecting your family. You're trying to be a cult leader.
Right.
So the prostitute that he allegedly slept with, I mean, I believe her. What the hell is she gaining from saying this?
Oh, it's like Stormy Daniels.
Exactly. So she was on the documentary, and she said that it was horrific. And she was basically, the kind of sex he wanted was abuse and rape.
It was like rape. Like she was raped. She felt like she was being raped even though he was paying for it.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah.
He's a great guy.
Great. Okay. I want to tell you some things that aren't allowed in this IBLP. Dancing.
Yep.
No dancing. Rock music or anything with a strong drum beat.
Yep.
Alcohol and drugs. Okay. Reading most books except for the Bible and IBLP teachings. Yep. Cabbage Patch Dolls, I mentioned that before. They were real upset about Cabbage Patch Dolls. I think that the guy who invented Cabbage Patch Dolls must have done something personally to Bill Gothard for how many things I found about him talking about how that guy, the creator, like personally puts demonic energy into each Cabbage Patch.
Yeah. He's sending them out into the world.
I was like, he is putting a lot of effort into defamation of Cabbage Patch Dolls, even after they weren't even very popular anymore.
But that's also just projection.
Yeah.
like you saying that you're taking these Cabbage Patch dolls and sending them out into the world. Like one of the main tenets of IBLP is to literally breed as many children as you can
Right.
and send them out into the world to spread the
Right.
word of Christ, right? That's just projection. You're onto yourself.
You're saying the quiet part out loud.
Right, like
yeah, I agree. Their dating rules. I mean,
yuck.
I won't explain all of it. It's exactly what you think it is.
Yeah, it's gross.
I mean, remember they showed the clips of Josh and Anna when they were courting, that's what they call it, holding hands creepily because they weren't allowed to touch each other any other way.
And they also have footage from like 19 Kids and Counting or whatever series it was then of Jim Bob telling Josh, like having this like talk with him, like he's like, it's time we have a talk about the birds and the bees because you're about to get married. And like, not to be super graphic, but like he's already molested his sisters.
And they know that.
And you're sitting there pretending like you're putting on this farce.
Right.
That like
he
doesn't know what sex is.
He's been sent away for rehabilitation for this.
Cut this shit.
It's so gross.
I cannot.
Yes. So there's a rule with the dating that if a boy asks the girl, they have to say yes if their father approves. To court, and courting is just to get married. It's not like playing the field.
No, there's not like casual dating.
No. So,
and they're taught that like that God will send the man that he wants for you to you. So like if any dude walks up and is like, I want to court you, I want to marry you.
You have to say yes.
You have to say yes because you've been taught that that's how God sends your partner to you.
Yeah, it's great messaging.
Anybody?
I'm going to start a cult that says if I come up to you and say, go get me coffee, you have to because God said it right now. Drop everything.
It's a little less like dangerous, that cult.
I mean, that's where it starts. You have no idea what I have planned after that.
World domination.
Exactly. All right. Here's some things that women aren't allowed to wear. Pants. Skirts above the knee. Sleeveless shirts. And my favorite, long necklaces.
Oh, really? Long necklaces?
Yes.
It's weird.
Okay, so I have some bullet points. They're all spicy. So I don't know if you need a deep breath or if you're okay, but are you ready? A little throat clear. Throat chakra's going to love it.
Yep.
Okay. The first one, I'm just going to say this to you. I'm going to give you a word, and I just want you to react.
Yeah.
Blanket training. Do you remember this?
No.
Okay.
What is it?
So in IBLP, they teach you that when you have a little baby.
Oh my God, yeah, it's awful. Oh my God, yes. It's awful. That's why I didn't remember it because I repressed it.
Yeah.
That's child abuse.
Yes.
Stop
so
you can explain it, but enough.
I'm going to lightly explain it.
Oh my God.
But it's way worse than whatever you're imagining.
Yeah.
You put the baby on the blanket. You put its favorite toys around. And as soon as the baby stops looking and smiling at you and goes for the toy or whatever, you say no, and then you hit them.
You hit their hand.
Yes. And then as they get older, you use a rod.
Yep.
So you abuse them. Now,
and they're not, and then, yeah.
Go ahead. I just want to say there's no way the crew of the show, 19 Kids and Counting or whatever, didn't know that this was going on.
Of course they did.
Because, I mean, the older siblings have come out and said that they were abused.
And that's like where the seed of that obedience is planted. And like where I think a lot of people watching from other parts of America are like, well, that can't be all bad. Look at these kids. They're also obedient and quiet and well-behaved, but they're literally like traumatized zombies walking around.
Yes.
Like these aren't happy kids.
That's what I felt. I mean, I can't remember how old I was when the show came out, but I know I was like an older teenager at the time. I don't know if you remember, but like this was like 2004 or maybe 2005. Yeah. So, I'm out of college, like whatever, this is going on. But like, this is like, I remember seeing it going, these kids are creepy. Yeah. Like I wasn't impressed with their behavior. I was disturbed by it because I was like, there's not one of them who's like a wild child running around. There's not one of them asking any questions. They're all just doing exactly what they're told. And I remember being like, is this just for the camera? Like I remember thinking that.
And there's a whole part of IBLP where, like, in their teachings, there's a whole portion about spanking.
Yeah.
How to properly spank, how not to be arrested.
They do it on stage.
They show it on stage. And I remember thinking, like, if I spanked my kids, they would get louder. And he addressed that.
Yes.
He said that you have to then spank your kids for up to 5 to 6 hours
until they
submit. And like, think about the trauma that puts on a child. Like,
I can't. It's as young as babies who we know cognitively do not understand what you're doing.
No, they don't.
I mean, and there is a clip on Shiny Happy People, but I bet you could just Google it too, where Michelle Duggar's using her sing-songy voice, and she's like explaining how to do it.
Yes.
And she's like, okay, look at mom and smile.
Yes, when she's talking about the blanket training.
Yeah, and it's
terrifying.
So scary.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think that it's important to know, like, that's where the seeds are planted so early.
Yeah.
The trauma starts so early.
Yeah.
And that's how, if you're sitting there thinking, like, how could you stay in that? How could you stay in that life? How could you stay in that marriage? Well, it's because you're traumatized from when you're a literal baby.
Right.
You're taught to be obedient, and then you're isolated. You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what's out there.
Your home's an island. Yeah. And
so
you're uneducated.
There's no escape.
Yeah.
In their mind, there's no escape.
Exactly. They don't know anything else.
They don't.
No. Okay, I'm going to say...
And that's the point.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. I'm going to say another word for your reaction.
Okay.
Parentification.
Oh, yeah.
Of these kids raising kids.
Well, obviously, you have 19 kids, or even if that's like an extreme, you have 10 kids, 11 kids.
Yeah.
Of course.
And especially in the Duggars, I can't speak to any of the other families in this, but I know that they're all following the same teachings.
Right.
That was like you were assigned, like you were a certain age, you were assigned a buddy, and that buddy took care of you. They raised you. I mean, all of that, to the point where, like, I know people not necessarily in this who experienced life like that, who will say, like, they didn't want to have kids when they became an adult because they had just spent their childhood raising kids.
Correct.
That is not okay.
And it also creates, like, sort of a grapple for power and, like, a hierarchy. Like if I can then, almost it creates, like, another umbrella.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, like, I'm the boss of you. So if you feel really out of control in your family system. Yeah. If you can then, like, be the boss of your younger siblings, it might be a good place to find some power. Yeah, that speaks to the breeding of sexual predators, of course. Absolutely. All right, the part that I was waiting for you to get to on the documentary the whole time, where they're trying to infiltrate the government and openly say so and show you, like, they have different. So Bill Gothard, they say a lot. He loved an acronym. Oh, he did, yeah. So he has all these things, but one of them's called ALERT, which is basically like them trying to train a military. And then they have a group trying to infiltrate the government so that they can all be in and pass legislation, and it's creepy. I was really impressed with the former member on there that went to Harvard Law School, and and he spoke about how, like, this isn't hyperbole. No. Like, when we're sitting here saying, like, they're trying to infiltrate our government, I hope you understand. Yes. I hope you understand. And, like, I mean, I know the people who get irritated with me in real life and on social media aren't listening to the podcast, but, like, no. I know a lot of people think that I'm exaggerating when I'm talking about, like, capitalism, patriarchy, and, like, the problems in our government. Right. This is actually happening. I mean, this is their term. Yes. Their term is, we are going to infiltrate the government. It's not me having, like, or you having, like, a wacky conspiracy theory. And, like, not even just, like, your local, like, your local, like, town, board of, like, whatever. Yeah. Right. He specifically said the White House and the Supreme Court. Yeah. And that has worked. Yes. Look at our Supreme Court now. Yes. Look at what they're overturning. They're doing things based on these beliefs. And then they get idiots like Donald Trump who will do their bidding, be their talking heads. And we're here. We're in it. Like, I know it sounds like Debbie Downer to be like, yeah, we're in it. Like, whatever my obsessed segment was a couple weeks ago. It was like, oh, with the book ban. Like, now, pay attention. Like, it's happening. Now. It's happening now. Yes. This isn't in the future. Climate change isn't happening in 50 years. It's happening now. Like, this takeover of evangelicals taking over our government, it's already happening. Like Madison Cawthorn, like they showed him on there. He's from one of those programs.
Yes.
They're in our government.
Yes. He's on the documentary.
He is.
This isn't us just being like, we aren't practicing religion.
Like this.
And
right.
we don't care for it. We were there and we left and we
right.
think it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This is not that.
No.
There's plenty of things I see in the world that I think that about, but I'm not going to do a podcast episode on it because I think that we are both very careful of how we use our platform.
Yes.
This is a systemic problem affecting us right now.
Yes, it's not a
Jamie,
threat.
we can't go outside and breathe our air.
Right.
Like it's not just us being like, oh, they're trying to infiltrate the government or trying to whatever weird things people think like we're trying to do, I guess. I don't know. But like this is actually happening.
Yes.
And like when we're not saying evangelical, when we're calling people conservative instead of saying what they're actually doing. Yes.
Right.
Like this is the problem. And this is why we have to say it.
We have to use the right words, the right language. We have to be honest about that they're not just conservatives. They're radical extremists.
Yes.
And these aren't just people who have differing views from us. These are people who are prolifically across the board predators.
Yes.
Like predators, abusers, even if it's not sexual, it's psychological, it's mental, it's physical, it's sexual. They're predators.
And there's not just one. This is a system creating this.
And it's people who have used these systems in their homes and have seen how they work on a larger scale and now want our government to act like one big like family, like one big house, so that like our country is now under the umbrella of that.
And we're not realizing or we're not paying enough attention to the fact that it is the evangelical church doing it. Like, you know what I mean?
That's
like
who's trying to overturn all these laws about abortion and trans rights and LGBTQ plus rights.
And banning books.
That's who's doing this.
Exactly. And like, look at who the people you are voting for are being backed by. Because if you see things like IBLP, you need to know what it is. This is why we're talking about it, so that it doesn't keep working.
Right.
We can't keep living in a society that is ruled by a few companies. Right. And some of these companies are under the guise of religion.
And it's also like sort of safe to listen to these stories and say like, oh, that's horrific. That's a bad cult. Like that would never happen to me. I would never fall for that. Well, first of all,
we both know we would
know
have.
That's not how cults work.
You and I would have fallen a little bit for NXIVM, I think.
Yeah, and then we would have been kicked out for being too loud.
I mean, definitely. But
the point,
you weren't born into it, so how do you know? You weren't born into a family that taught this.
Right.
So how can you say, right?
But you can't just say like, oh, this is this really interesting topic and it exists over there. Or down south or Midwest or wherever or over in America, those idiots. Like you can't because it's not just happening over there. It's actually now in our government. Yeah. It's not just this anecdotal story. Yeah. It's actually playing out in real time in our government.
And it's connected to the companies you're buying something for. Even if you're in a different country, like it's getting you. It's coming for you. It's already got us.
It's here.
This is us fighting back.
It's here.
Yes.
So it's not just like these like weirdos on some TV show.
Yeah.
They're sitting in your state houses.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So don't tell me that like there's no reason to vote. Don't tell me that there's no reason to pay attention to government. I don't get involved in politics. Well, these motherfuckers are. Yeah. They're real involved in politics.
Exactly. And you can't not be involved in politics. That's not possible.
Politics are involved in your life in every waking moment. If you choose not to be involved, cool, but it's happening all around you.
Exactly. You're not actively involved. Doesn't mean you're not passively involved.
You're not being affected by it all the time.
Exactly.
Look at the laws that are all happening now.
I mean, these men, like Bill Gothard, get to the top. They have a ton of money. Yeah. And it's not even just in religion. I'm going to say something. It's going to cause people to get mad at me.
Let's hear it.
That happens every time. So this was what started to give me a little bit of ick with Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing Tony Robbins to Bill Gothard. I don't think that Tony Robbins is a predator of any kind, or
no.
But I'm just making a point of like what happens in this sort of like any kind of quote unquote self-help industry.
Yep.
All right.
Which is religion or metaphysical or spiritual.
All of it. It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that you go to these things. I go to the seminars. I go to learn because I want to hear how does this, and you're like, okay, I'm being taught about human behavior. I'm being taught about that. And okay, this is really cool. And suddenly you start to go, and this is what I started to see with Tony Robbins. I don't feel like he was always like this, but maybe I just didn't notice. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden I was like, oh, he's only surrounded by people who are just like him.
Yeah. Right.
He's making his money from rich white men.
Yep.
And so he's only seeing through how do I keep the rich white men at the top so they can pay me.
Yeah, so I can keep being successful.
You know I love Tony Robbins. If he gets mad at me, call me. We'll talk it out. I got some advice for you, buddy.
Yeah.
I know you give the advice, but I'm here.
Well, everyone needs advice.
Okay. I can see him trapped there, but it's like we need the people getting to the top of the mountain, who are go ahead, go make a lot of money, go for it, okay, make a lot of money, but you get up there, and then you turn around and help the people behind you,
always,
okay. But what's happening is they're getting up there,
and then they're pulling the ladder up behind them.
And they're pulling the ladder. And they're going like, now how do we protect just us up here?
Exactly.
And listen, I know I don't mean to compare Tony Robbins to these people, but I'm saying even in places where like, I don't think that there's a lot of abuse that I don't know, but I haven't seen anything like well-intended. Like you see this turn of like, oh, we're just like, the white men are just sitting there and they're just holding it all. And it's just to all of when you go further into like, teachings like that, it's all just to make a lot of money.
And it's hoarding.
I want to make money. Money is great. Yay, money.
Sure.
Let's have it.
Let's do it.
But like, I also want to understand how to like enjoy my life and like help other people and make a difference in the world. And the further you get into these things, again, be it religion, be it metaphysical, be it self-help, be whatever, the more you go like, oh, everyone's just here to like hoard the money.
Exactly. Right.
Enough.
Yeah.
We don't want that anymore.
No.
That's been done.
That's why we're here, is to talk about like that, like it's sort of all the same heads of the monster, right? Just with different faces.
Yes. And they're not all Bill Gothards.
I mean,
Tony Robbins is not a Bill Gothard. He's one of my heroes. I love Tony Robbins. I'm critical of him because I think you got there. I feel like you're one of us, and you got up there and you didn't turn around and help us.
Right.
What happened, buddy?
Exactly.
Okay. Ranting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. A couple more things I have to bring up to you. One part of the infiltrating the government is that they also are infiltrating police forces.
Yes.
There are IBLP trainings and seminars being taught to police forces.
To local law enforcement agencies.
Yeah. Okay.
Like we need more white supremacy.
Yeah, we don't.
In a police force?
No, we don't. We don't need that.
It was founded on white supremacy.
Yes.
But then you're going to put these like radicalized extreme approaches?
Right.
No.
We've talked a lot already about the sort of glamorizing and shaming of victims of sexual abuse. But I would just like to add that the whole concept of virginity and that being something a woman can give to a man as a gift, when you tie that into all of this, is this the ultimate way to rob a woman of having any sexuality at all.
Correct.
The amount of women on there that thought like, the best thing I can do for the world, my life is dedicated to giving my husband my virginity and then having babies for him, is literally the epitome of men going like, we are afraid of women's sexuality.
Correct.
So we have to take that away all the way.
Right. But it's also one of those things that doesn't make sense that was frustrating you earlier. So like
it makes no sense.
And how can you say that you have to save yourself for a man?
Right.
Like, this is so important to us.
Yep.
But then we're going to rape and molest and assault all all
but
in
that's
your beds
glamorized.
At night. Right? Like,
right. Because God chose you.
If you really thought that like virginity and this whatever purity was so important, You wouldn't be touching people in their beds at night. You wouldn't be raping people. Like,
And why is it only the woman's virginity?
correct.
You're not supposed to even, like, you remember the hugs could only be sideways, like your parts couldn't touch in a hug. Do you remember that part?
Yeah, and that he was Jim Bob and what's her face were saying,
Michelle.
like, oh, just tell us when you two want to kiss and we'll kiss each other for you. I was like,
that'll really quiet the sexual energy.
So weird, bro.
Hey, Mom, I want to kiss my boyfriend. Okay, I'll kiss your father for you instead. That's,
It's very weird.
It's creepy. It's creepy as all get out.
Yep.
Oh my God. Okay. So, again, if women's sexuality is the thing being overly controlled and the thing that's like the greatest thing for a man to get, but yet you're not supposed to even front hug when you're dating.
Right.
But that rule doesn't apply to the boy in the same way, but it applies to the girl.
Right.
All of this is bullshit.
Yep.
It doesn't take a critical thinker like me to figure this out.
No, it does not.
Thank you. Okay. In the Shiny Happy People documentary that came out, there were two people who I found fascinating, and they were Jim and Bobby Holt.
Yes.
Okay, Bobby Holt is the wife. Jim is the husband.
Yep.
And I was fascinated by them because they were the Duggars' best friends / are the Duggars' best friends. I was confused.
Yeah, their story kept changing.
It was weird. I was like, these people are not honest.
Right.
And then it came out on the documentary that Jim Holt started dating Bobby Holt when he was 19 and she was 14.
Yes.
And he was like, oh, I didn't know. But the way that Bobby threw that out there, I was like,
yep. She threw
all my spidey senses were tingling.
Yep.
Okay, well,
come to find out,
since this documentary has come out, Bobby Holt. Now, let me also just back up for a second and say that in the documentary, the Holts were like saying that the Duggars were wrong.
Yes.
And Bobby Holt was one of the main people who testified against Josh Duggar and took him down
because their daughter was involved.
Courted by Josh at one point. Now, they never said anything happened or didn't happen. It seemed like they were very careful of the words they chose around that.
Yes.
But anyways, the whole time they were on, I was like, what? Are you friends? Are you not friends? Like, there's a lot of weird stuff around that. There's the throw out that Bobby does of 14. Bobby's energy towards Jim in it is weird. And then come to find out, she filed a restraining order against him, and so did their son.
Yeah, an order of protection.
Yeah, and so it was in April. So it was after the documentary came out.
Yep.
But it was like, it had happened after they were interviewed.
Exactly.
So, like, does that make sense?
Yeah, the documentary was made.
Yes.
And that all happened. And then after that, the order of protections were granted.
Exactly.
I don't think he liked... I mean, it's pure speculation, but like, I think he's terrified of like betraying
Jim Bob.
I
agree.
On film.
I also always wonder in situations like that where, like, was Bobby in there listening to all this stuff, realizing that she was going through it? Like, we talk about how, like, Anna doesn't know.
Right.
But, like, if Anna was interviewed and the producers were talking to her, she would suddenly realize that she could get out.
Right.
Like, is that what happened to Bobby?
Probably.
Like, do you know what the timing's real weird to me.
Well, and also, like, Jim Bob, they showed about how, like, those kids were never paid. And then when they started to push back, Jim Bob offered his own children who were on the TLC show with him that made him millions of dollars.
Yeah.
He was offering them minimum wage.
Yeah.
Like, he was offering them an hourly rate.
Yeah. But he like snuck contracts.
He was signing.
He was signing. So sketchy.
He was signing for his kids, for his adult children. He was signing as them. He was signing for them.
Yeah. So sketchy.
Snake.
Okay. I'll end with one more point.
Okay. I have one point too.
Okay. I'll save a spot. I tried to find out how much money IBLP had. Because they also, like, they have, like, these businesses within IBLP, like the homeschooling is one of them. And then they have all those, like, the alert training. They have all these training. They're, like, very expensive. But the homeschooling seems to be the big business element to this. So I wanted to know how much money they had. I couldn't find anything that was, like, legit enough for me to say the figure.
Right.
It was insinuated in the documentary that it was billions.
They said billion. There's one figure they said was in the billions.
I couldn't find anything to
Mhm.
back that up, and they didn't cite anything. So,
Right.
like, I don't know. But I would imagine it's probably true based on
Mhm.
at least the assets that they have.
Yes.
But if it's not billions, it's definitely millions upon millions.
Absolutely.
And IBLP is a tax exempt.
Of course it is, because it's a religion.
Yeah.
Of course.
So again, if you're like, wait, Heather, this doesn't really sound like a religion. It sounds like a cult controlling women, like the other cults we talk about. You're right. And
Mhm.
just a reminder, like Scientology, it's tax exempt.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what's your point?
Oh, only that, like, I love the part at the end, or one of the guys who had gotten out. He was a child in IBLP, and he said that it just felt like a really profound moment where he said, like, we were all in the same situation, and all we had to do was talk to each other.
Yeah,
And then once they did,
I was going to say that's always how it goes down.
right? Is that communication?
Somebody too intuitive,
right,
to continue to live in a way that none of their desires are met.
Right.
Can't take it anymore.
Right.
And gets out, and somebody else, so intuitive too,
right.
talks to them, and then they take it down every time.
And that's why they want everyone off the internet, because it's such a powerful tool to connect with other people that are going through the same situations.
I mean, those are the heroes of these stories.
Absolutely.
These kids are raised in it. They know nothing else, but yet they're strong enough and amazing enough to get out, speak out, take it down, and like, a lot of these kids now, their families don't speak to them.
No, absolutely not.
So you lose everything.
Right.
I mean, those are the heroes of the story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank goodness for them. I follow some of them on TikTok now.
Same.
Yeah. I suggest you all do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Heather.
We need coffee after this.
Definitely.
All right. Let's go get some.